Welcome back to Snetterton here in Norfolk. We're ready for the second of our two powertrain Caterham R400 challenge races. This one is over half an hour. The red lights are on when they go, and it's go! Good start from the back of the grid by Andy Dimitriou. David Dyson goes with him, and this is David Dyson's view, heading up now towards Rich's corner. To the right of us, William Mitcham, but Luke Stevens it is who takes the lead then as they turn into the first corner. Kevin Williams there just ahead of Dimitriou, and then Matt Blythe at the back of the field. But David Dyson then working his way up the order, goes to the inside line, heading into Sear. JM Littman runs a little bit wide, and now the cars accelerate down the Revit straight for the first time. On board now with David Dyson, looking to try to gain a bit more ground. You can see him tucked right up behind the cars ahead there. In a minute, he'll try and dive to the inside, I suspect, as they come down towards the S's. But the race leader now, Luke Stevens, no more, because round the outside of him goes John Gladman. Gladman goes through, Stevens slots into second place, Jerry Taylor third, fourth Littman, fifth is Dominic Paul. In sixth place there is John Barnes, and right with him is David Dyson. Chris Holmes next up, having lost his place to David Dyson. Then we've got Will Mitcham, then Kevin Williams, then Andy Dimitriou, and he's got a lot of work to do here. Dimitriou not making progress, he's on the ragged edge though there. Look, big slide coming through Caterham. And Dimitriou made a blinding start in race one, but a very disappointing first lap in race two. Over the line they come then. The whole pack of cars running as one long line. Over the line they go. There you can see Dominic Paul looking for a way to get onto terms with JM Littman. The race leader is John Gladman. Luke Stevens having a look on the inside and taking the lead as they come into the braking area. Luke Stevens, the ex-ARP Formula 3 champion. He's done some British F3 racing. He's done some Porsche Cup racing. Runner-up in last year's BMW Challenge, and he leads here with Gladman, Taylor, Littman, Paul, Barnes tucked up behind him. Down the Revit straight they go. Change for the lead though, because Gladman there just nosing ahead of Luke Stevens as they turn out of the corner. This is Dominic Paul's view. Look at this ahead of him. Three abreast, four wide now as they go down towards the S's. Dominic Paul getting a mega tow. Is he going to come out the race leader? No, he's not, because John Barnes is there on the inside as well. Barnes through on the inside. Around the outside goes Littman. And that is Luke Stevens diving through as well. So Jerry Taylor it is this time in the lead. Gladman second, and Luke Stevens then pushed now down to what? Fourth place. We're on board with Dominic Paul now as the cars accelerate their way once more in towards Caterham Curve, through the right-hander, and then down towards Russell. Will Mitcham there hard at work. Meantime, Littman looking for a way past Gladman. It's Jerry Taylor in the lead though this time. And Chris Holmes there diving up on the inside. He goes ahead, back ahead indeed of David Dyson. Dyson looks to retaliate as they come over the start and finish line now. Dyson going to the outside line, and Dimitriou clearly has a problem. That car that suffered damage in race one, just not making the progress expected. The Aerostar car way down the order, and Dimitriou, who came here as the man joint second in the championship, is now starting to struggle, it seems. Chris Holmes going through with David Dyson up behind him. The race leader though this time, Jerry Taylor. Onto the Revit straight now. Luke Stevens there, a man to watch. He's gone well this year, he's yet to win. He's got ahead of him JM Littman, he's got behind him John Barnes, and Littman trying to get onto terms there with a man ahead, namely John Gladman. But at the inside line now comes Luke Stevens. Stevens goes ahead of him, Gladman trying to go around the outside and succeeding in going around the outside of Jerry Taylor. That was a good move. So the race order now, Gladman ahead of Taylor, back up into third is Stevens, down to fourth is Littman, and going after all of them, and as ever, a man to watch, John Barnes, fifth, and very quick. Barnes now starting to just pick his way steadily up the order. Half an hour, of course, this race. So that means that the drivers can think a little bit more about it. They can plan a strategy, whereas they have to go for broke in the 15-minute race. Down now towards Russell. Race leader, John Gladman. Jerry Taylor behind him, then Stevens. JM Littman is next, and you're on board with Dominic Paul this time, coming up over the start and finish line. Just ahead to the right of us there is Chris Holmes, and Dominic Paul can't find a way through on the outside. He gets back into the wheel tracks as they come now up towards Rich's. Holmes defending, but David Dyson comes through from nowhere, runs out of road, and off he goes. Brakes far too late, runs out of road, gets onto the grass, onto the curb, the car all sideways. Dyson shakes his head, he knows it was his fault. Well, he tried hard there, came lunging up on the inside. A for effort, but I'm afraid it wasn't that well executed, that move. And so ultimately, it spits him down the order again. Dominic Paul still looking for a way there to get past Chris Holmes, but he's losing out now because I think Andy Dimitriou has made a place on him. Dimitriou in car number 8, tucked right up there behind Chris Holmes. Holmes, one of the Team Parker racing drivers, and you can see that right up with him now is Andy Dimitriou. John Barnes hard at work, looking to try and get onto terms with JM Littman ahead of him, and he needs to do that fairly swiftly now because ahead, Gladman and Stevens battling amongst themselves. He doesn't want to get left behind too much. Littman just dropping away by a length, but Dimitriou now becoming the man to watch. He's starting to make progress. We're on board here with Dominic Paul, Jerry Taylor, who's dropping down the order, is ahead. Then Chris Holmes, and ahead of all of them, Demetriou, but Demetriou getting this slipstreaming effect going against him in a straight line. He gives a toe to Holmes. Taylor tries to go with him. They lean on each other, and Taylor has a big, big slide there. Spins the car round, I'm afraid. Jerry Taylor back in the right direction now. That was most unlike Jerry Taylor, though. He seemed to get caught out a little bit by what was going on ahead of him. Had to brake, round came the back of the car. He couldn't hold it, so Taylor spins. On board now with David Dyson ahead. You can see Will Mitchum's blue and yellow car. Kevin Williams is about to be passed, though, because through on the inside goes Dyson. He's got past one, he's got past two. David Dyson sweeps through on the inside, gains a couple of places, and his next target there ahead is Dominic Paul. Quick wave to acknowledge that Messrs Williams and Mitchum gave him racing room. Somebody off ahead, bouncing over the grass. Is that Demetriou? Maybe it is. Andy Demetriou's thrown it away, coming out of the bomb hole. Spins the car round, heads back to the tarmac, rejoins the race, but Andy Demetriou, I'm afraid, has chucked it away there. Car number 32, John Barnes now. His next target is Luke Stevens, and Stevens in turn looking for a way past John Gladman. This is the top three now. Gladman looking to try to do the double. Stevens, who was second in race one, wanting to go one better. And John Barnes, who was way back, sixth in race one, wants to be on the podium. The top three down the Revit straight. This time into the lead goes Luke Stevens. John Barnes having a look as well on the inside. Is he going to go through? He's going to get second, I think. Yes! John Barnes back in contention then now. They're also through on the inside. David Dyson going ahead of Dominic Paul. A replay here of what happened a lap or so ago. This is on board with David Dyson. Chris Holmes ahead of him. Dyson goes to the outside, arrives a little bit too quickly, put offline, slides onto the grass, heads back to the tarmac, just gathers it all up again. Will Mitchum goes past him, Kevin Williams goes past him, and David Dyson has all that work to do again. But he's made a pretty decent recovery after that. He's got Dominic Paul, though, back ahead of him. That's Chris Holmes, as ever, very spectacular. Bit wild at times, Chris Holmes, but a very quick driver. And then behind him you can see the battle between Paul and Dyson. There is Chris Holmes now, right up behind J.M. Littman as they come onto the Revit straight. Past the pits they go. Another car pulled off there on the right-hand side. That's Jerry Taylor's car, I think. Yes, it is. Jerry Taylor at a retirement. As in the meantime, we have heading down towards the S's now. Side by side, Holmes on the inside, Littman on the outside. And Chris Holmes goes through. This, I think, the best show we've had from Chris Holmes all season. Through on the inside goes there David Dyson. He's ahead of Dominic Paul now. This is the beauty of Caterham racing. Because of the shape of the cars, because they don't have wings on them, they can slipstream easily, they can overtake easily. And in half an hour like this, so much can happen. Down towards Russell then. Holmes versus Littman. Behind them you can see David Dyson on the ragged edge, trying to keep Dominic Paul behind him. The cars now, though, accelerating up towards the completion of another lap. Over the start and finish line they will go, this time with Holmes fending off Littman. And there, Dominic Paul right in the wheel tracks now of David Dyson. He goes to the outside. Will Mitchum saying, wait for me. He wants to join in that battle as well. Holmes and Littman are together, and they touch there. Holmes, I'm afraid, went too deep into the corner. Littman tried to turn in. Crash with Chris Holmes' car, ends up in the gravel, and that's the end of J.M. Littman. Now, what about Chris Holmes? Well, he's having his own spin. He's going to try to rejoin if he can. He does so now, but I just wonder how serious the damage is after what was a pretty big whack between the two. Up front, though, John Gladman is leading. There in second place, going after him, you can see number 32. That is John Barnes, and Luke Stevens right up behind them. John Barnes enjoying a much, much better race here in race 2 than in race 1. And a very cross J.M. Littman stomps out of the car, walks away. Here's the replay. Look, Chris Holmes on the inside, Littman on the outside. Holmes ahead, but he locks up and he runs too deep into the corner across Littman's line. And as Littman turns in, he's got nowhere to go except bang into the side of Holmes. And he's very, very annoyed about it. And Chris Holmes didn't exactly escape scot-free either. Lots of damage to his car, and he doesn't want to turn either as it comes into Russell. And I think Chris Holmes is going to have to head for the pit lane and forget about this. He does. In he comes. Retirement looms. Meantime, John Gladman versus Luke Stevens. Nose to tail, these two. Down they come now towards Russell. Gladman ahead of Stevens, who has a look on the outside there. And John Barnes waiting for it to all happen ahead of him and that he can pick up the pieces if possible. They're going to come through then now, up over the start and finish line. Looking for a last lap board. Is it there this time? It is. One more lap to run for them then. 30 minutes will be up next time the leader crosses the line, and John Gladman is just ahead there of Luke Stevens in second place. The two of them nose to tail. They're about to dive into the right-hander of Sear. John Barnes tucked up behind them in third place, waiting to see what develops, but Luke Stevens now right in the wheel tracks of John Gladman. Now, which way does he go? Does he go left? Does he go right at the end of the Revit straight? Is he timing this, or can he genuinely not get through? Gladman trying to weave around and break the toe if he can, but Luke Stevens staying in the wheel tracks, being dragged along now by the leader, and he goes to the inside line as they come in towards the S's. Luke Stevens going for the lead. Can he squeeze by? No, John Gladman breaks even later. Holds onto a big slide around the outside there, thumps the curb, slows everybody up. Gladman then just hanging onto the lead. And there you can see in third place now, John Barnes with better momentum coming out of the corner. Barnes looking for a way past Stevens. Goes to the inside, Stevens defends. Very wide car that Luke Stevens drives there. But now John Gladman has been able to escape, because with Stevens defending only for a corner, so Gladman has got away. Down they come then towards Russell for the last time. And John Gladman looks as though he's going to make it a great double on his return to racing. Look at this though, Stevens and Barnes, they're going to be almost side by side for second place. John Gladman the winner. They come across the line. There's the checker flag. Gladman wins, and almost a dead heat for second place there. 14,000 separating second and third, as there another side-by-side finish. David Dyson and Dominic Paul come through, and that was 4,000ths of a second. Caterham Racing, as ever, proving to be ultra close. John Gladman the winner, Luke Stevens second, John Barnes third, whilst Dominic Paul just takes fourth from David Dyson, and Will Mitchum in sixth.
Oh, absolutely ecstatic. I mean, you just can't tell anybody the feeling of having a Caterham race with three of you in it right up until the line. I mean, it's just fabulous racing.
I backed off and saved it, and we got the water temperature down a bit and gave us a little more power for the end, but it wasn't quite enough to, we slipstreamed John, and I'm not really in a championship position to have risked taking myself or John off, and John's not actually in the championship, so I think we now leave here leading the championship.
I had some problems with the car. The back end started to go off, and I could see the guys behind knew that, so I wanted to drop back and just stay in the tow, but I wanted to drop back and try and play a bit of a tactical race. But unfortunately the engine started missing out of steer on the last lap, and I got a bit of oversteer. I just couldn't get the slipstream on them on the last lap up the straight, so it was a bit of a shame, but I was right with Luke across the start finish line. It was just one of those things, really.
So a great race, and this is how the championship now looks. Luke Stevens yet to win, but he leads by a point from John Barnes, with David Dyson third. Dominic Paul fourth ahead of Mitchum, and then Andy Dimitri after a bad weekend at Snetterton. Next week, though, we're off to Castle Combe in Wiltshire for a look at the John Cooper Challenge here on Sky Sports.